telling me that you have a way to defer the tax situation there? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And so the first one I was referring to is a 1031 exchange, which only applies.
See if it's going to work here. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'll be frozen here. We are. Hello, hello, hello. We might just stop the screen share. All right. Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen share. Our video is out today. How are we doing today? Happy Friday to everybody. Hope you're staying as warm as you can. It's been a cold, rainy week here in California. We've had a lot of rain nonstop. Cold, I guess, in relative terms for most of the country. It is still California. Hey, want to welcome you to another capital gains tax solutions masterclass on how to build wealth when you're exiting highly appreciated assets. You know, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. And they typically don't have a great coach or a team that helps them to really to figure out ways to accomplish what they're trying to do, right? And, you know, sometimes they know about a 1031 exchange and they know about a, you know, Delaware statutory trust. They typically haven't heard of things like the Deferred Sales Trust or really know how to even unlock what it can do for them. And so we're here to really kind of just dive in to stories, you know, answer questions, give them clarity on what the Deferred Sales Trust is, how it compares to a 1031 exchange, and also that you can create and preserve more wealth or help your clients, friends, and family do the same. For those who don't know me yet, my name is Brett Swarts, and I'm founder of Capital Gains Tax Solutions. I'm also a multifamily broker and investor, and just love helping people escape feeling trapped by capital gains tax and build wealth with real estate, but also partnering with and strategically align with CPAs and financial advisors who are experts in their own right, because sometimes it's not always, you know, buy high and, sell high and buy higher in a 1031. Sometimes it's, you know, sell high and put it into the stock market when it's a little bit low. There's different strategies. And the cool thing about the Deferred Sales Trust and what we do is we just show you the freedoms and flexibility it can have. And so these masterminds are really set up in three kind of phases. One is kind of the vision and what we're about. Number two is we're going to talk about deal stories and some frequently asked questions of the week. Part of this is just sharing our journey with you so that you can know that A, this is real, B, this is legal, and C, what it's even capable of doing for you. And the last part is just to open it up for questions. And you might have questions along the way. And if you do, you can put it in the chat and we're going to answer those. But you might also have a live deal. You might be the person selling right now. So let's start with the first part of this is who is the Deferred Sales Trust for? Well, it's for anybody who has a highly appreciated asset that's worth at least $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain. Okay. And once you have that per transaction, you qualify to be able to unlock the Deferred Sales Trust. Now, if you don't have that, you might say, well, Brett, what are my options? Well, you can do some cost seg. Cost segregation is if you buy a piece of real estate, you can depreciate the asset on an accelerated basis using what's called a cost segregation study, where basically they're segregating the different components of the real estate asset, like the HVAC unit and the roof or the appliances and different things about the whole part of the apartment complex. And then they're able to squeeze down with bonus depreciation, and you can take off some tax there. So there are ways to solve your capital gains tax not using a deferred sales trust, such as cost segregation. So the question really is what are you trying to do, and what's going to help you to get there, right? So if B is where you want to be and A is where you're at, question is what strategy, or what team, what exit plan is going to help you to get where you want to be. And the best way for you to do that, or if you're a professional helping your client do that, is to help them clarify where B is and what that means to you, right? There's some freedoms you really want to focus on for this that I found. These are kind of some of the top 10 freedoms for our clients who show up. And they're typically in a couple states. They're in a state of maybe confusion. They may be in a state of powerlessness, and they might be in a state of just frustration, right? And we want to try to create an opportunity and a vision for creativity, for empowerment, and for clarity. And if you can do that, all of a sudden it can unlock what's actually possible for you. And so really, really want to be in. So let's talk about some of those freedoms of where you might want to be today. One of those freedoms can be, I just want to be free, Brett, from the 1031 exchange. This is probably one of our most common ones where people show up and just say, I'm just tired of overpaying for property. In fact, right now, cap rates are relatively about the same as they were, even 6 months ago, maybe a little bit higher. But guess where interest rates are? They're, maybe double or maybe 60 or 70% higher than they were 6-7 months ago. So you're looking at an influx of having to borrow at a higher interest rate, but the cap rates are still pretty level. And so you go, why would I sell high and buy higher or buy even with the same but almost double the interest rate, right? Doesn't make much sense. Unless, of course, you have some kind of value add forced appreciation opportunity where you can increase the rents substantially. Then we do believe there's opportunities for you to buy. And you can buy that in any market, right? And we do think there's opportunities coming up, by the way, where sellers are resetting their expectations on pricing to a more, I guess, cash flow makes sense level, right? And if they don't, they may not sell and they may not be sellers in today's market. Well, we're also unlocking that freedom with the 1031 because we're saying, hey, let's think about this entirely differently. Instead of having to feel like you have to overpay for property and chase a higher interest rate and a similar cap rate, why don't you just completely get out of the 1031 and go into something like the Deferred Sales Trust? And so this is where the freedom is so cool because not only can we unlock the capital, not only can we sell and defer the tax, not only can we pay off the debt, but now we can take this and invest into opportunities that perhaps are a little bit lower. We can diversify. Okay. And I just mentioned 3 or 4 or 5 freedoms right there alone from the 1031 exchange. You'll notice that diversification is typically not, by definition, what a 1031 is. Liquidity is not, by definition, what a 1031 is, but it is a deferred sales trust. It can be. And so as you start to unlock and see what you're trying to really do, you're trying to lower your risk, unlock your capital, diversify your wealth, but also increase cash flow. In fact, we're proposing on a property for a seller in the South Bay area, further down a little bit more down the coast. And this particular assets are right around $6 million. And the particular clients are considering selling. And they're looking at their ROE. Their ROE is your return on equity. And so this is a good exercise for anyone right now who has $1 million asset. Is the question is, what's my return on my equity? In other words, if I were to look at my cash flow that's coming in, right, versus what the value of the property is worth, and look at those ratios and compare them to one another, you're going to quickly get an ROE. And an ROE, let's just say you had $100,000 NOI and your property's worth $1 million. Right? That's about a 10%, right? It's about 10% right there. That's coming in. Now, what if your property were worth 5 million and you still only have 100,000 or 8 million or 10 million, right? So at a certain point, you have this capital, what we call sleepy capital, right? That if not either refinanced out or 1031 into a bigger deal or deferred sales trust and diversified, that capital is not working as hard for you. Another analogy would be, what if you had a gold mine underneath your house, but you're just living in your house and you maybe Airbnb-ing it out, but there's a gold mine. Like if you were to tear the house down and just start, digging up the gold, wow, that would be really great. So sometimes that means exiting the asset, exiting the business, exiting the crypto, exiting the high-end primary home and turning it into a cash flowing producing asset or redeploying it. And that's the key here, right? How do you build wealth through exiting well? How do you build wealth through exiting well? Well, first you start with clarifying what your B is and clarifying what your ROE is, what your return on equity is, and then doing a calculation between what it could be. Right now with the deferred sales trust, we're looking at, 5, 6, 7, 8% typically net of fees. So on $1 million, that's like an $80,000 cash flow. And you say, okay, and can that be passive? Yeah, it can be passive. That's part of one of the other freedoms is you can be passive. You don't have to be an active owner. We're going through some of the largest wealth transfer in the history of the planet right now. And this is the $32 trillion from the baby boomers. That's passing from the baby boomers to the millennials. And they're wondering, they feel trapped. They feel frustrated with not being able to sell because of the capital gains tax. That capital gains tax is 25 to 50%. And so that's what they're feeling financially, but they also want maybe some location freedom, some time freedom. We just did a deal in Palo Alto for a seller of a high-end luxury primary home, and he wanted to relocate to Nevada, and he felt trapped in his house. His 6 kids are gone. He's not even renting it out. It's a beautiful property right on University Avenue. And he's going, man, what could I do if I could unlock a couple $1 million? What could I do if I could pay off the debt? What could I do if I could relocate? And what can I do if I can semi-retire? Right. So by selling his house, that was a non-cash flow producing asset, which, by the way, Robert Kiyosaki tells us the definition of a primary home is not an investment, it's a liability. The definition of an asset is it's producing some cash flow, right? It can also be a stock too, but living in a house is a liability. It's not an investment. So he said, I'm going to take this that's not producing any cash flow. I'm going to sell it, pay off my debt, and it's going to produce cash flow in the trust to defer my tax. Not only that, it's going to give me a chance to move to Nevada and establish residency, which is a cool thing too, that once he's in Nevada, guess what? The income that's coming off the trust is taxed at Nevada tax level. Okay. Versus if he stayed in California, it'd be income tax in California, or Nevada, there's no state income tax. So that's pretty cool. So these are some of the things that we want to be thinking about. And here's another analogy. Think of it like in a Rubik's Cube. Everyone has in a Rubik's Cube, either yourself, and we all do actually, and your clients, and everyone's trying to achieve some form of congruence, right? With their life, with their time, with their energy, with their family, with their health, with their finances, with their personal development, with their leadership. Some of it's estate tax challenges. Some of it's the 1031. Some of it's just like a client last week who just closed with one of our strategic alliances, Jake Carpenter. Now, Jake had a client out of Idaho. Let me see if we can pull up the deal here. Out of Idaho, I got this deal close story list. We can go through a few of these, by the way. It's kind of cool. And this particular property is 5 mobile home parks. Okay. His name's Gary Lester. In fact, you can go to my YouTube channel and you can hear Gary tell his entire story. And I encourage you to do that because stories help us to overcome false beliefs of what's actually real and what's true. Right. And so Gary has 5 mobile home parks. And the challenge with Gary was he had found some financial freedom. So he's worth 10 million bucks. He's five of these things. And this is Gary here. See, that's his mobile home park. That's one of them. And he's in Moscow, Idaho. And he's going, Brett, I've got a lot of I've got financial freedom. But when I got into this thing, that's part of what I wanted to get away from was my W-2 job and just my regular business. So my way out was to invest in mobile home parks. I went to the seminar and I took massive action and I just started to buy these properties and they started producing the cash flow, which was sweet. And I made the multiple millions of dollars and I've got financial freedom. But all of a sudden I found myself stressed out with my time and my energy. And it's almost like I swapped freedoms. My first freedom was not having financial freedom, but my time and energy was tied in my W-2. And I thought the mobile home parks would give me the time and energy. Now it gave me the financial freedom. And I'm grateful for that. But now my time and energy. So he's going, you're telling me, and I get calls every week. Brokers calling me, buyers calling me. They can buy my mobile home parks. They can buy them. I'm just saying, no. He goes, because what am I going to do? Am I going to trade 5 problems? And there's still blessings, right? But 5 time, energy, just stressful mobile home parks for 10 mobile home parks? No, I don't need 10 problems. I already got 5 problems. I don't want a 1031, right? So he's kind of feeling trapped, frustrated, doesn't have clarity. He doesn't have confidence on how he's going to get out of this deal without getting crushed by tax. And so he had just chalked it up to, I'm just not going to sell for right now until Jake Carpenter, who's an amazing financial advisor out of Washington, gave him a call and said, hey, we've got a solution for you. Why don't you take a peek at this? And that began the journey of about a 4-month journey of detailed questions. CPA who was super cautious. Local CPA there in Idaho, super concerned, super cautious, as they should be, because these strategies I think are very rare that have been tested and proven, like the Deferred Sales Trust, thousands of closes, billions under management, over 20 no change IRS audits, perfect track record, never failed, tens of thousands of tax returns on it. So, but CPA hadn't heard about it, local CPA, until he spoke with the CPA and tax attorney with our business partner. And now all of a sudden, boom, that unlocked that pressure. So Gary felt better. And then as he continued down the process and understood it, he goes, oh, this is it. I've been waiting for this. So now he already sent us a referral and it's transformed his freedom, right? So the question for you is, what freedom are you after right now? What would that mean for you if you were to achieve it? And what if you had crystal clarity on your wealth plan, your exit plan, You had confidence in the team around you to support you and help you to build your wealth. And perhaps you had more time and energy to spend doing the things you want to do. So that being said, I'm also going to bring in Pierce Short. Pierce Short is he helped co-host the podcast, Capital Gains Tax News podcast. He's a commercial real estate and luxury agent down in Newport Beach. Pierce, how are we doing today, brother?
Doing awesome, man. How are you?
Doing well, sir. So talk about the entrepreneurial freedom, right? Because there could be people listening to this, Pierce, going, you know what? That sounds great, but I don't want to be passive. I'm an entrepreneur, hard driving, real estate and business owner. How free can I be if I want to be an entrepreneur with my money? Like, I'm not ready to sit back and be retired. I'm ready to dive right in. So walk us through how that works, Pierce.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the beautiful things about the Deferred Sales Trust is you get the freedom to choose. So, you could be passive for a little bit and then decide, you know what? I got that entrepreneurial bug again. I got this great idea. You know what? I'm going to leverage what I got down here in the DST and I'm going to go for it again. And you don't have to follow these time constraints. It's when that idea comes into your head, or let's say you have something already you want to go into and you want to buy real estate again, or you want to, start up a new business, or you want to invest in in another business that's blowing up, right? You think this business is going to IPO and it's going to be awesome, right? All of that stuff is possible. So the freedom to pick and choose and win is amazing. So the ability to invest in what you want, when you want, is an absolute, I don't think you can beat it, honestly. Yeah. I don't think there's anything more powerful than it.
Yeah. And that's the transformation, right? It's not just having one freedom. It's having literally like 10 freedoms that in most other strategies that we've found. And this is why we're believers in what we do and why we believe it's the single best way to exit and create and preserve more wealth, because it gives you so many freedoms. Okay. Whereas most give you maybe one freedom, like you could have like a charitable remainder trust, but these things are pretty restrictive on what you can invest into, and the returns aren't great. And you still have to give it all the way to charity. Whereas the deferred sales trust, you can still give to charity, some or in part, but you can be super flexible with how and where you invest the funds. Some of these other things like a 1031, we already talked about all of the restrictions with that. By the way, 1031 doesn't even work for primary homes. It doesn't work for crypto. It doesn't work for businesses. The deferred sales trust works for all of those assets. Plus it works for investment real estate, and it can save your failed 1031 exchange. And by the way, if you want to do a 1031, we'll cheer you on. If you find it, high five, we'll give you that backup plan for you at no charge, no additional cost until you use the deferred sales trust. Now you do work with a qualified intermediary that we work with. You want to make sure we get with them. And they're incredible, right? So make sure you work with the right people. But here's the key. It's not just the strategy, it's the team. So step one is clarifying your B, clarifying where you want to be, clarifying what freedoms are going to unlock for you and why that's going to be meaningful for you, like Gary Lester's freedoms, right? The second thing is, okay, so now I figure out the strategy. Now what about the team? So Pierce, if I'm running the Golden State Warriors, do I want 5 Steph Currys, or do I want a Draymond Green and a Klay Thompson, of course, a Steph Curry, right? Talk to me about just the roles with the Deferred Sales Trust and what the power of the team can mean for someone listening right now.
Sure. Yeah, no, you definitely want to diversify a little bit because they all have their roles. Although 5 steps is, I don't know, that might be a good team, but I digress. The point is that you want people that are specialists in a variety of different things that can kind of all add their highest and best value, right? At the same time, to just come alongside you and totally enhance your team, right? Like, you don't want 4 generalists. You want 4 specialists with specialties in different fields. So you want the tax attorney that you have already, right? And then you want the Campbell Law Firm on your side too, because they're the specialist in the Deferred Sales Trust. They will defend that like nobody else will be able to defend it. You want that Navy SEAL, right? You want a Brett Swarts on your team who's going to be the specialist and the trustee, right? You can't have somebody who has no idea how to make this thing compliant running this thing, right? You're going to get screwed. So you need to have those people. You need to have your Jake Millers, right? Who is able to look at something from a holistic perspective and say, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z here, it's going to affect A, B, and C here. And that might not be advantageous for you. What we might want to do, right, is EFG over here, and that's going to help you do XYZ better over here, right? And so you want that holistic kind of like mindset. So all of these different people that we're bringing in have their role, have their specific specialty that's going to come alongside and enhance your current team to, just perform at a level that they're honestly not able to perform. And that's not that they're not good enough or whatever. It's just that there's specialties that we have that we can enhance the team with.
Yeah. It's like a board of directors or like a dream team, right? And so we come alongside and work with you and with your existing team, and we help to really just build the experts, right? As your wealth gets larger and as more money, more challenges, more problems, you need to have more problem solvers, right? We got to take this Rubik's Cube and say, hey, what are you trying to do, right? How are you trying to get there? And a lot of people show up to us and they're like, yeah, so it's, this is the best they've been able to get this thing up. If you're listening to this on the podcast, it's just different colors on a Rubik's Cube and it's all kind of disjointed. And you go, well, if you give us a chance to move it around a little bit, all of a sudden we get, perhaps at least one side, you still see that one green there. It's never going to be perfect, right? These strategies are never perfect. It's not like the magic, sometimes we get called, people call us on these magic trusts. They're like, it does all of these incredible things. You're like, well, how long has it been tested? How long has it been tried by the IRS? What's been the outcomes? And typically there's none of that. So the deferred sales trust, it has been. The point is, what are you trying to get to? And we become those problem solvers. And that's really what we're passionate about, unlocking those things. Let me tell you a couple other deal stories here too. I think people really love the deal stories. So this is Dave Levinson. Dave Levinson sold a $7.7 million property out in Georgia. He shares his story on YouTube as well. See if that comes into focus. And so he was in a 1031. We saved his failed 1031 exchange. He was able to pay off about $4.5 million of debt. So he got some debt freedom, and then he got his time and energy freedom. He's able to pursue a Montana ranch and like a leadership retreat for people was kind of his passion project. He'd made the millions, and now he's looking at the legacy, right? So this gives him a chance to free up his time and energy to focus on the legacy aspect versus just the building of the wealth aspect within multifamily. He's done hundreds of deals. He lived in Hawaii for a number of years, had deals out there, and he lives in California right now. And so that was an awesome, crazy, cool deal. Great client. Here's another deal down in San Diego. It's a car wash. It was a $12 million exit. 4 partners, 3 ended up using the DST. One of them ended up just paying his tax. That was cool. Cool thing about the DST is the entity can dissolve and the partners can go their separate ways, or they can have their separate DST trust. Whereas the 1031, typically the whole entity must move together, which means the whole partnership must stay together. Not so with us. So this is an example of that one. And by the way, they called me and there was 21 days to go. So it's the fourth quarter, 10 seconds to go kind of thing. They're like, Brett, this is millions of dollars. This is our biggest deal. If you're telling me we can eliminate the 1031 and we can still go our separate ways, show us, and we're in. And they're in, and we did it. We performed for them, and they're really happy. Here's another one. It's a $33 million deal out in Las Vegas for a client. And this is his 5th deal. His name is David. They're syndicators, and they do they're GPs in these, and there's a lot of LPs. So they put their GP positions into the trust, and then they roll a lot of those or reinvest them back into other deals of their own, which is really cool. Let's see here. Where do we want to go? We have another one here. I haven't talked about this one in a while. This is one in San Francisco. It was a duplex. They lived in half of it, and then they rented out the other half. And so this is the one in San Francisco. This one's actually San Diego right here. But this particular one, they sold, and they were able to do some of the 121 exclusion for the one they lived in, and then the other one they deferred the tax. So that was cool. They wanted to move to Hawaii. They wanted location freedom. They were just like, I've got all of our capital tied into our place. We want to live in Hawaii. They were able to do this before COVID. They got out at a good time, although the value of the house probably went higher when COVID hit. So that might have been a little bit less. So that being said, what questions does anybody have? I do have someone's in the chat here. I'm not sure what that is, but something in the chat. And then you can unmute yourself. Please ask. It looks like Dana says this strategy can work with syndication real estate deals. Yes. So Dana, do you want to unmute yourself and say hello? And we can kind of dive into that. Are you there still? Okay, that's okay. I'll keep talking. So yes. So if you're a GP or an LP, it works for those. If once the funds are in the trust, can they invest back into syndications? Yes. There's no like kind requirement. No problem, Dana. Just drive safe. I'm echoing here a little bit too.
I was gonna say, yeah, you're echoing a little bit.
Sure. Turn this down a little bit. So it does. And here's the key. Do you have $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain? Do you have that? And if you have that, then you qualify, unless it's $500,000 on two assets that you can combine, that combined have $1 million net proceeds and $1 million gain. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Pierce, want to add into that?
Yeah. I want to like set expectations a little bit, because I've had calls with syndicators who call me and they're like, hey man, like, we're exiting this deal. It's a $4.2 million exit. And, I've got 47 people who, are going to have a capital gains tax. Right. And after it sounds like great, like, okay, $4.2 million deal. But as you start breaking it down and each person's like, actual like gain, it came out to like, $10,000 a person. Right. And they were getting like 50,000, they were $50,000 investors, right? $75,000, $100,000 investors. So the answer is, yes, it can absolutely work for somebody who's in a syndication, but you got to hit that proceed, that amount. Because if you got 15, 30, 40 people, right, with $100,000 that they put in and their gain is, they have 17, 18% IRR, we're looking at a lot of work for, it's just not going to make any sense. So
yeah, we just won't do the deal. It's too small for us, and it's too small for you too. It doesn't scale. Is really it's the same reason why you wouldn't buy a duplex versus 200. I mean, you might buy a 100-unit property, but you're probably not going to buy a fourplex and syndicate it, right? You probably just buy it yourself. So it just doesn't scale. That's just our minimum. We just found it's not a big value add for small deals. So you've got to have bigger gains and bigger deals. Okay, good. All right, Ravin, do you have a question there? I think you were unmuted for a second. I muted you because I think you were echoing. But do you have a question there, Ravin?
Yeah. So where do you put the money to get the 8 to 9% passive return?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, we diversify. So we're not going all in on one thing. But what we a lot of our clients like, generally speaking, are multifamily value add deals, mobile home park funds. We're looking at some RV funds as well right now, which is kind of cool, like RV, like resort style developments, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and it's over a 10-year term, right? So it's not guaranteed. Okay, so none of this is guaranteed. It's not like anyone's. So it's still an investment. It could lose. It could go zero, right? It could go 15. But we typically like pro-business states, value-add multifamily, mobile home parks, some hard money lending funds that pay 10 to 13% right now. So we have strategic alliances across the country.
Okay.
But it's not us putting it there. It's actually the note holder who's the client. A lot of them have their own deals and their own alliances and their own strategy. They are the ones that have to approve of the investments. Our role is as a trustee is we work with the financial advisor to come up with an allocation that could fit and be suitable to their risk tolerance. However, they might not be suited. The note holder may not like as much stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So then we typically will put about 20% into a stock portfolio, right? Typically like an S&P 500, some of the biggest companies in the world. Dividend paying stocks. Again, they must approve it. Okay. The financial advisor puts it in front, and then other clients bring other potential deals. So it's not like a one size fits all, Riven. And we're not just one of the biggest misconceptions is people think, oh, I'm going to give you 10 million bucks and you're just going to go off and invest it. No. The funds never move without the client's, the note holder in this position's approval. Otherwise, the funds just sit there. We've had funds sit there in the account for months, especially during COVID when everything was uncertain. until we found a time to invest properly. So you can also dollar cost average. So these are things that are very nice about the trust. You don't have to, you can diversify, you can dollar cost average, you can go into real estate, you can do your own deals, you can do passive deals. So what really the better question is, Robin, is what can't you invest in? Right? So what can't you invest in, Pierce? What's the answer to that?
Yeah, so you can't invest in items that you will be using for your quote personal use. That means going to buy, a super fancy, primary home, or a Ferrari, or a yacht. Now, if you could turn that into a business somehow, a legitimate business, right? We're not gray here. There's ways that you could potentially maybe buy a yacht for a chartering service. It's possible, right? And going out. I mean, my father-in-law is working on a sailboat right now, and I mean, they charge $5,000 a charter to go to Catalina Island and back per day. Now there's costs associated with it, right? You got a captain and a crew and food and all that kind of stuff, so it's expensive for a reason. It's a big boat, but that's a legitimate business opportunity, right? So if you can find a way to rent the car out, maybe on Turo, and you have a luxury car rental portfolio, that's a legitimate business, right? As long as you're doing it. So you just need to make sure that it's not for all personal use, and you are if you want to take the money and go travel, hey, take the money and go travel, take some. Right? Go. There's no reason why you shouldn't.
And just pay your tax on that amount. Exactly.
Pay a little bit of tax. Yeah, it's not a big deal. So
that makes sense, Ruben? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Good job, Pierce.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What are the questions you have, Ruben?
No, I have a client. He's actually one of our private lenders, because we're debt and equity brokers here in New York. And he's kind of well off. So he's selling 5 buildings in Brooklyn, $50 million. And his biggest challenge right now is what else is he going to buy? On too many lucrative deals. So I mentioned this, and I'm not knowledgeable about it yet. I can't sell it effectively, right? So I'm going to have to do an intro. But what his first response was, is this like a Delaware tax thing? He was like, oh, that's a waste of time. So I was like, look, I don't know enough. I'll make an introduction. Is that something that's out there, a Delaware?
Yeah, so it's a Delaware 1031 or a Delaware statutory trust, and that's the other DST, and that's in the 1031 family. And the reasons he's not interested is the same reasons we don't really use them at all either. I mean, we'll use them on occasions for what's called debt over basis challenges, which is another concept here. But the point of a Delaware is you have no liquidity, no diversification, zero control, and the funds are tied up typically 5, 7, 10 years. So a guy who's made $50 million on his own in Brooklyn in real estate, the last thing he wants to do is give it all up to a company that does Delawares, right? Okay. That's Blockbuster. Blockbuster is when you have to show up on a Friday night in the snow in New York, park, slip on the ice, walk in, the movie's already taken, you get the second movie, you have to go back, you have to rewind it. That's a 1031. It's just really restrictive. Netflix is cool, man. You don't have to get out. You don't have to park. You can just push the button and you don't have to go out in the snow, right? That's the deferred sales trust, meaning, yeah, there's some things you have to set up prior to, but if he wants to go buy Brooklyn apartments at a discount or deals in a year or two, he can. All tax deferred, yes. If he wants a new depreciation schedule, yes. Now, the way we structure, he gets up to 80%. So I think the first thing you want to do, Raven, is ask him, A, what are you trying to do? And then also clarify what his real problem is. Because guess what? If he has $50 million of assets, Raven, he's got not only a capital gains tax problem, but really what he has is a estate tax problem. So the question you want to ask him is, hey, let's not talk about strategies right now. Let's just clarify what you're actually trying to solve for. What's your Rubik's Cube? And what I'm seeing is, you may not be seeing this, but you have a huge 40% estate tax. So here's the question. How much of your $50 million of real estate is inside of your taxable estate? Likely he's going to say all of it. Most guys say all of it. And he might have some kids and he says, well, I maybe gift it some of it away slowly. But here's the challenge with gifting. You can only do so much per year. A lot of these guys can't get it out fast enough. If he's married, he has about $24 million exemption. Okay. Meaning, if he were to die tomorrow, let's imagine he's worth $52 million, just to keep it simple. Okay. Actually, let's make it 54 million. Let's imagine he's worth 54 million. Keep it simple. If he were to die tomorrow and have all of his assets, he gets a stepped up basis. Hey, good job. We're happy for him. But that only does capital gains tax. What does the government do? They say 54 million minus 24 million is the exemption if he's married. So that leaves $30 million inside of his taxable estate. So you take 40%, 30 million times 40%. Let's do the math. That's $12 million of estate tax that his estate needs to pay within 6 months of him dying. This creates a whole nother set of problems for people because one, it may not be opportune time for the family to sell. Two, the kids may not be that sophisticated to be able to sell it and negotiate well. Three, you may not be able to refinance in a marketplace that actually allows for this. Four, they might have to go try to buy a bunch of life insurance that's uber expensive just to offset this. This is all of these really restrictions. So here's what we can do with the Deferred Sales Trust, which is literally transformational for our clients. You can sell today, sir, and move all 50 million outside of your taxable estate. How would you like that when you pass, your kids are the beneficiaries of this trust? Outside of the taxable estate, we just eliminated $12 million of estate tax. So you want to change the conversation because most of these people have never heard of this. A, that's why they get confused with the Delaware Statutory Trust. But B, they're solving for the wrong problem. The Delaware doesn't take it outside the taxable estate. The Delaware maintains what's called the stepped up basis, which again is great. That's the tiger by the tail. That's the capital gains tax. But the elephant in the room is this 40% death tax, and it's brutal. Okay. Does that make sense, Ravin? What questions do you have on that?
I'm just gonna set up a call.
I think that's wise.
That's a wise move.
And the cool thing is we have a whole, you can look this up. You can go to YouTube. It's called the DST Plus. Okay. Deferred Sales Trust Plus.
Is this something new or it's been around for a while?
It's been around for a long time. It's been audited. One of the biggest deals is a $125 million deal in California. No change, no findings. It's perfect. We're batting 1,000.
People just don't talk about it, I guess, right?
People don't have the team to help them understand what I just said. Okay.
Right.
And now we bring them in, they sign the NDAs. We will break it all down. And literally 99% of them, Ravin, they join us. Here's honestly the hardest thing you're going to have to do. He's going to say, that sounds incredible. Great. Get your team to come on and poke holes in it. Pay them the money to come poke holes in it. We don't charge any money on our side. We do no cost, no obligation due diligence. It's all conditional. But the biggest thing for the 50 million, $100 million New York guy who's been doing it for 30 years, he's had his team who's helped him get from 0 to 50 million, right? Or whatever. And those guys are going to be super cautious and skeptical. And they should be because they've never done it. They've never done the surgery. Like, would you recommend it to somebody if you've never done it or seen it? Right now, if they can spend time with it, here's the good news. We have national law firms review it. We've had local law firms. We have New York law firms. We have it all. Okay. We really do. And I'll give you those people after our call. You can get with me. You get with me. Okay. And they've signed the NDAs and they've gone through it like months and months, sometimes years of due diligence. And then they all join us. And that's the coolest part. And now those same attorneys who were skeptical, the CPAs are sending you the business to sell the deals now because you unlocked the problem. So your biggest thing is exactly right. Don't try to be the guy with all the answers. In fact, you don't want to be the guy with the answers because you've never done the surgery. You want to be the guy who introduces us, the client, to us, who has the answers. Even us, we're gonna cover. It's like like a value ladder, if you will, or even like an education ladder. You're getting this first part of it, then the second part of it, and then we'll dive even deeper and more granular. And that's when the genius, I think he's a genius. He's a tax attorney who created this all. I think he's the Elon Musk of CPAs and tax attorneys, and he's brilliant. And we get them on with him, and we get their CPAs and tax attorneys on, and then all of a sudden it clicks. But if we try to be, I'm still just the nurse. I'm still just like the registered nurse. Maybe some people say that I'm a little bit more advanced now, but honestly, I've only just because I've absorbed 10,000 hours of the genius tax attorney brain surgeon, if you will. And now I just get to share these ideas with people. Does that make sense, Ravin?
Yeah, got it. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Let me give you one more thing though, okay? Because that's not even going to be enough because he's still going to be skeptical. Let me give you one more deal story, okay? And this is a deal story by David Young, okay? David Young. Now, David Young, write that name down and write down the name Bill Gross. Bill Gross, okay? Bill Gross and David Young built PIMCO from 80 billion to 1.2 trillion about 20 years ago. These are some of the biggest, most respected people in the industry, okay? Financial planning, wealth management, geniuses too, okay, in their own right. And about 5 guys worldwide built PIMCO, okay, from 80 billion to 1.2 trillion. Okay, so they all retired, get this big payday and then a few years, about 10 years ago, David and 5 other guys formed Anfield Capital. And about 5 years ago, they get approached with the Deferred Sales Trust. And you can imagine, Ravin, like guys like that who are managing the level of wealth they're managing across the world, they get approached with stuff like this probably all the time, right? And like everyone else, they're like, this sounds too good to be true. Seems like we would have known about it. But we're open. We're open, okay? We will sign the NDAs and we will do due diligence. And if it works and it's legit, hey, we'll be the first ones to say it. So they did a 2-year due diligence. They flew back to the Midwest, met with our business partner, the tax attorney, mapped it all out for 2 days. Their legal team, CPAs, spoke with the banks, spoke with the national law firm, spoke with the clients. I mean, 2 years of extensive due diligence. And they came through with 2 conclusions after all of that. Number one, David Young and his team came through with 2 conclusions. Number one, the tax attorney who created this is probably the smartest person they've ever met. Number 2, they're all in. They are part of our DST inner circle. They will manage capital for any deferred sales trust client, okay, as a part of the team with the financial advisors. So in fact, they don't even manage for individual clients anymore. The financial advisors bring in the capital. So they're actually a money manager. They support, as a part of the team, a higher level of service or higher level of management, okay? And that's incredible. So I say to people, because I can have my opinion on this, but I go, if David Young and his best legal team and all of it for 2 years did a due diligence, and if it's good enough for him to put his name on it, is it good enough for me, Ravin, Pierce, Dana, everyone else on this call, your client who's selling that $50 million, if he's selling $50 billion, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So leverage stories, not try to sell them on logic. To say, here's a great, amazing story. In fact, watch this replay right now. Watch it, spend an hour watching it, and then say, let's show up and let's see what they have. Okay. And that's what we would ask you to do. Does that make sense, Ravin?
Thanks.
You're welcome. People want to learn more about this, then go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. By the way, also coming out with a new book here soon. And I do mean very soon. It's going to be exciting. We're going to have a launch date and a launch party and all this cool stuff. It's called Building a Tax-Deferred Exit Strategy. And we have people like Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank in the book and some other really smart people like Jake Miller as a financial advisor. I have a few chapters as well, but it tells my story of essentially building Capital Gains Tax Solutions, the company, learning about the Deferred Sales Trust and how I came to become a believer and what it can do for my clients and perhaps even for you once you read the book. So check that out. Does anyone else have any more questions, thoughts?
There's a question in the chat, Brett. It says, what's the difference between an installment sale and the deferred sales trust?
Great question. Thank you, Dana, for asking. I'm looking at that right now. So the deferred sales trust is an installment sale, by the way. It's a manufactured installment sale that's coupled with a trust as a third-party trustee where the collateral can be diversified and it's not secured against just a single buyer and a single asset. So the cool thing about the deferred sales trust, and part of why I love it, is it's actually just an installment sale coupled with a trust. So that's the difference there. And then unlocks all of these freedoms, all the freedoms for what we've been talking about for the last 45 minutes, right? No 1031 problems, no like-kind replacement requirements, dollar cost averaging. Now, a traditional installment sale, we call that blockbuster installment sale. I could call it Hollywood video. Did you guys have Hollywood videos growing up? Like that was like the cousin to Blockbuster, right? And it's the same thing, except a little bit, just basically,
It's like the Lyft to Uber.
It's like the Lyft to Uber, exactly. So, although we like Uber and we like Lyft, that's kind of like who we think we are, right? As with the Netflix version. Okay, so a regular installment sale, you're simply allowing the buyer who's buying your property to you're simply lending them the money to buy your property. You're security against the asset you're selling. So let's say you had a $10 million apartment complex, you owned it free and clear. The buyer might show up with a $2 million down payment. You take that, you'll pay tax on that. The other $8 million of equity you may loan to them, so they don't have to get a loan from a bank. Or it's supplemental, right? They might still get a loan from the bank, but you're in a second position there. So what's the problem with that? Why not just do a regular installment sale? Well, number one, your collateral is only secured against the asset you're selling. So you have to ask yourself, well, I'm selling my asset. Why? Well, do I want to foreclose on and take it back? No. So that's a possibility. Number two, could the person drive the property into the ground and not even pay you anything? Yeah. Could that person not be investment grade, meaning they're just a buyer that could, is not investment grade. They're not investing in the biggest companies in the world, Netflix, Google, Apple, Tesla, Home Depot. Like, you can secure the collateral in the deferred sales trust against the biggest companies in the world, or massive multifamily syndications, or big funds. In other words, you're building your house on rock over here on the collateral versus potentially sand. Okay. Next thing would be, it's still inside your taxable estate. In fact, the DST 1.0 is still inside the taxable estate, and your kids can step into your shoes and you can maintain it. At a traditional installment sale, they're also typically 2 to 3, 5 years max, most of them, which means the person has no prepay typically, can pay back quickly, or, and then all of a sudden you're paying your tax anyways. So with the deferred sales trust, you can go on for basically as long as you want in 10-year increments. Your kids can step into your shoes. And a regular installment sale blockbuster, you got to return you got to return the movie in 3 days. They're going to probably pay you off in 3 years. Okay. So it's literally like cool that it says same foundation, but one of them has transformational freedom. The other one has some blockbuster deferral. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. The last thing would be DST Plus moves it outside of your taxable estate. It's different than traditional installment sale, but it's similar to its 453. And that one is huge because we're getting it outside of the taxable estate. So, Pierce, any follow up on that?
No, I think you did a great job. Yeah, honestly.
All right. Cool. So I don't know how we're doing on time here. Does anyone else have any other questions or thoughts on any of what I just said? The Deferred Sales Trust? Anything? And if you're listening to this, you can join us by going to capitalgainstaxlist.com and registering for the mastermind. Love to have you join us next week, every Friday, 10 a.m. PST, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome.
Cool. I think we're good, Pierce. I think we covered a lot today, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. All right, everybody. Hey, appreciate it. Pierce, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Go to kingdomluxuryrealty.com, and you can also find me on the podcasts. You're posting those all over LinkedIn now, or something like that, I'm seeing. So they're out there.
We're here, we're there, we're everywhere, right? We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Check out Pierce York. Check out Brett Swarts. That's me. Check out Capital Gains Tax Solutions. Check out our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, subscribe to all of these things. Give us the little thumbs up. Anything that can help the algorithm so that more people can see us, so we can help more people. And hopefully, maybe someone that you may even know as well. Share this with them. It can be inspiring. Hey, thanks so much for listening. CapitalGainsTaxSolutions.com. I believe everyone needs an exit planning coach, and everyone needs a plan. And we would love the opportunity to work with you to develop that plan so you can create and preserve more wealth. We'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks, Brett. Bye.